Hey everyone, welcome back to the My Super Awesome Life podcast. We're super excited today. We have a great guest in Anne Scottlin. But before we go to Anne, we'll check in with Jane and see how she's doing. Jane, how's it going from the East Coast? How are you?
I am awesome. How are you? I'm so thrilled. I can see Anne. I wish our listeners could see Anne as well. I can see Anne. She's all pink and positive today. I'm all positive. And this is beautiful serendipity, beautiful synchronicity, because Anne and I met very surreptitiously. We were both invited to speak in Washington for International Women's Day. And I was on Zoom. Anne was there in person. Now she's here. We're speaking together. We've got lots of exciting things to talk about, including talking about how to be more mindful, the joy of giving back, and the exciting, hot, not just topic, but the exciting development of socialpreneurship in our world today. So, Anne, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
hmm And now for our listeners, to give you a bit more of a synopsis on Anne. So Anne Scottlin is actually the founder of Global Impact League. Anne teaches and coaches a global network of social entrepreneurs, creating a new paradigm for how sustainable humanitarian and environmental programs are born. Anne's mission is to help launch and expand 10,000 impact programs all around the world in 10 years. It's quite a lot of programs. Anne offers strategic programs for step-by-step creation or ongoing support so that you can transform your own vision for change into a reality and the ground. Anne works to demonstrate to her global family how each individual has the potential to impact our collective experience for good. This is definitely a movement you won't want to miss. Anne, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Ross. Thanks for that introduction. I really appreciate it. Yes, that's me in a nutshell.
You got
Well,
a lot going on.
Mhm.
she does. Congratulations on your best-selling book too, Live for
Thank
Joy.
you.
I have,
Yes, thank you.
I've started to have a little glance at it. And first of all, beautiful photography, very, very
Thanks.
inspiring, and very, very inspiring in terms of starting new beginnings, starting fresh,
hmm
and
Yes.
just sort of overcoming, but looking beyond
hmm
what is to what can be and to
hmm
the future. So thanks for inspiring us all.
Sure.
I'm really excited to have you here. And I really believe you're leading the charge on socialpreneurship.
hmm
So let's get down to it. You know, you're such a versatile human being. I know you're an actress. I know you're a best-selling author. You're obviously an entrepreneur, but you're a social,
hmm
but you're also a mentor and a teacher to others.
hmm
And you're also socially committed to intentional living. So can you tell us a bit more about your journey and sort of share how you were inspired to mentor and encourage others to live intentionally and create joy?
Yes, no, thank you so much for this opportunity to share. So, yeah, I have a very nonlinear career, a very non-traditional background, life story. I grew up in an extreme right-wing Christian religious community, very cult-like environment. And I was homeschooled till I was almost 16. Not the popular homeschool where you have all friends during the week, just like me and my two little brothers in the middle of literally nowhere. So very isolated. No movie, no TVs. No radio, no fiction. Wearing long dresses, the whole nine yards. Like people look at me now and they're like, "Oh, you were probably a cheerleader, weren't you?" I'm like, "If only you knew." No, I was not. I grew up with a philosophy of giving back. And if that was specifically in a religious garb at that stage, it was about caring for the other people in the world, living by example and making the world a better place. Now, that philosophy might not have been right on where I am in my philosophy today, but the principles of being a world citizen, of making a difference, of living not just for yourself. As I say, so many people just seem like they're interested in just entertaining themselves to death. Like that's the purpose of their
Mhm.
entire life. It's like, well, what? That seems so boring and unsatisfying to me. Not like I don't watch TV, but there's so much more that can be done. So my coming out, if you will, of that environment was a very long and tedious process. I was firstborn type A Capricorn, if you will. Like if I was going to do it, I was going to do it right. Hook, line, and sinker, just 100% bought in. And it took me well into my 20s to start slowly kind of extricating myself and a really bad divorce to realize how the real world works and to realize that I needed to find some balance and clarity. And all those, any of the bad things that happen to us, they're really a gift in disguise. I always say, nobody wants to have bad experience for yourself or your loved ones. But no experience is ever wasted unless you choose to let it be wasted. You can take any hardship and come away with learning, training, wisdom, the ability to empathize and help others and build on that. And you're even more unique for having gone through those challenges in your life. So I really literally had to reinvent myself because I was pretty much, raised to kind of be a good, obedient wife and homemaker. And it wasn't really who I was from the very beginning. I was much more ambitious, very social, motivated, natural gifts around like coaching and teaching, which I had done since I was a young teen. So this, I knew what my gifts were, but I was going to be a teacher. I wasn't able to finish grad school because of some issues with my ex-husband. And so I kind of just came reeling from this environment going, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing here? And I feel like I played by all the rules and then everything went wrong, which was never kind of what was supposed to happen. Yeah. And one of my mentors, when I was in college, an amazing woman, she said to me at one point, it was probably just over coffee or something. And she said, if you're ever really down at the bottom, if you really don't know how to extricate yourself, you're depressed, you're upset, you're unhappy, there's one thing you absolutely must do. If you really want to get well, if you really want to feel better, you have to intentionally focus on helping other people. Mm-hmm. And she was so right about that. And I remembered that. And I started looking for opportunities. I'd been kind of hiding in my house in shame for a year, basically watching TV and crying on the floor. And that wasn't doing anything but making me feel worse. And so, so I went out, I looked at some various nonprofits. I started working with Amnesty International and several other organizations. And, you get a lot of perspective when you start doing that and seeing so many people in the world who have so much greater challenges than yourself, and realizing that, some of those people, it's life or death, and just getting a perspective, but also realizing that you are valuable and that your contribution matters. So between those two things, between the perspective and feeling valuable and worthwhile, and that I was able to contribute something back to the world, that really pulled me out. So sorry, that was more than you needed to hear all at once, but that's like.
Well, yeah. I'm a very I'm a spiritual person. And like you, I believe in the power of giving back. And that often happens when you go through some very trauma and drama. I told you a little bit about my story, my most terrible year. And I've been divorced too. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. We all go through our journey in life, but I think when we have these things happen to us, it's the making sense of it all. We look for meaning, and that's what you've just shared with us. And thank you for that. First of all, thank you for being so humble, and thank you for being so kind, and thank you for being so open and honest. Because although I haven't had your experience, you're really helping me understand what it was like for you to go through that experience. And I think that's what comes through in your writing too. I read a little bit of your book. I apologize, I haven't read the whole thing.
No worries. Thank you for reading it.
But I'm excited. But the thing is, it's all about taking it's there's no mistakes in life. There's just lessons. You did not choose to be put into that situation, but obviously you said, you know what, there must be meaning here. There must be something good at the other end. So I guess that then led to the more intentional living. So what was sort of the catalyst? Because you're obviously very bright, and you're like me, like you just, you shine. I've been told I shine, I radiate positive energy because I believe in the power of positive. That's what my super awesome life is all about. So when you were coming out of this, and by the way, I think the lady that talked to you over coffee was a genius, and she she really knew what to say to you at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you make it from that point to where you are now? And again, as succinctly as you can, because I know there must have been lots of different
Yeah.
things happening. But if I'm a person like you that's been in that type of situation, how would I move forward
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
after you got that advice?
Mm-hmm. Um, Giving back, huge, literally transformed me and gave me meaning again, because I didn't even know who I was. I literally had no sense of identity. I had been so lost along the way with other people, with men who were domineering in my lifestyle, whatever. I had to find out what was I really here for. So giving back was a huge way to realize what was really important to me. I went back and finished graduate school. I was planning to be a professor. I have 3 degrees. I got my graduate
Oh,
degree in
wow.
medieval women's studies, wrote an award-winning thesis on medieval women writers, authors. So I love history. I love story. I love the story of human beings. And I was really looking forward to teaching, being a professor. And I graduated right in the middle of the recession. Where all of the
Ah, yes.
anyone who wasn't tenured was being let go rapidly and nobody was hiring. And so I saw I'll keep this very short, but anyway, I randomly saw a poster, auditioned for a play. I had no formal training, although I had written my first play when I was 10. Actually got a lead role in a small play that was being through the university, and got involved in acting and ended up working as an actress in Hollywood for 10 years. And this for me was sort of like the teenage life I never had, in the sense
Yeah.
that I was already remarried happily at this point, but discovering who I really was, discovering my power. Even, acting and acting classes can be brutal, but also you really have to get to know yourself. You can't authentically, this is hilarious. You can't authentically pretend to be someone else unless you authentically know how to be yourself.
Right.
So it was, not formal therapy, although I did plenty of that as well, but it was very therapeutic to learn. And I thought, well, this is my world stage. This is what I'm meant to do.
Right.
Along the way, as a side gig, I had started, got my coaching certification, and I'd started life and business coaching. And eventually that started to take center stage, and I was acting less and less, and eventually moved into what I'm doing now, which is kind of a combination. My own business coaches are like, Anne, you got to narrow it down. You got to narrow it down. And I said, okay, well, then I know, because the experiences I've had in the last few years working with people to help start nonprofits, to begin grassroots movements or social entrepreneurships really inspired me, because I saw a new vision for what the world could look like, not just with wonderful entrepreneurs, which is great for the economy and ambitious, but entrepreneurs who are doing it with a social intention and to
Mhm.
fix a particular problem,
Yes.
and the ability that you can make money and help make things better in the world. And that's what I've focused on. That's what my new podcast is going to be, is Global Socialpreneurs. Starts in a couple weeks, and I'm teaching a mastermind right now called the Socialpreneurs Mastermind. So that's what I get to focus on now, and it's just so exciting, because literally all day long I get to talk to amazing people like you and others, and literally am a socialpreneur, leading by example by helping grow, strengthen, and promote other social entrepreneurs around the world.
That, you know what, that is so inspiring. I'm getting that flutter in my heart. We're thinkers, but I always say you have to balance your heart and your head. So I'm getting that
Mm-hmm.
feeling in my chest where I say, oh my gosh, I'm aligned. This is somebody that really
Mm-hmm.
thinks and believes like me. First of all, that you can do it, believing that you can turn your life around, but also the idea that, we're collectively evoking change. Be the change you
Mm-hmm.
want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Be the change you want to be. The other thing is, Oprah said, don't let anyone else write your script, right?
I love that.
And I'm
Yes.
thinking of that quote as I'm talking to you, because you have really become, like the creator of your life, right? Is that
Yes, I have. And I am also creating a no barking environment. Give me one moment.
Don't worry about it.
I'm in
We
my
love
office.
dogs.
Yes. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm in my office alone today. My husband's on a business trip, and I have 3 rescue mini schnauzers laying at my
Oh,
feet.
good for you.
So that's
Let's
what's
don't
going
worry
on.
about it. We're
I'm
recording.
not.
You can
I'm
be
not.
real. Be
Yeah,
yourself.
they've
Be
been heard
you.
around the world, literally.
I love it. I love it. Let's make sure we get some barking in there.
Yes, there we
Us
go. There
on
we
the,
go.
because that's the real world.
That's right. It is.
That's the real
It
world.
is.
But anyway, I'll just say it again. So the idea that you come from that acting field, you've been on the stage, now you're in the audience. You're writing your own script. You're writing your own storyline. You've re-scripted your life, and you said, look, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to do this. And then obviously you got those nudges like me in the direction of, okay, I think I'm supposed to be doing something different, but I'm really not sure. Maybe I'll write, maybe I'll speak, maybe I'll, like for me, I've always been an entrepreneur, but my entrepreneur career was stalled and staggered and stopped because I had to take care of myself. When I had an injury, personal injury, I got slammed in the head with a volleyball, but also other people in my life. So I know what it's like to take that circuitous route, but good for you. So now COVID's been a wake-up call for all of us to increase our awareness of self and live with more intention and purposefulness than ever before. Can you help define, you talked about socialpreneurship. So is your definition basically, building your business and having a successful business, but also being philanthropic? Like, is there sort of a set definition about socialpreneurship?
So there basically is. So not every business is a socialpreneurship, because there could be argued that, 90% of all businesses are doing some kind of good in the world, right? So what makes it different? Of course, social enterprise can have different versions. So a company that gives 10% of its profits to a specific organization or charity is a social enterprise. In some ways, they're donating, they're furthering a cause that is important to them. A social entrepreneur can grow obviously into a social enterprise, but is generally starting around, a single person or a small group of people. And the difference is, instead of in a traditional business format where profit is the primary focus, socialpreneurship is solving a social or environmental problem is the purpose of the business. A specific, not just make people feel better, but like a specific, like I'm trying to eradicate hunger in children under 5 in America, or I'm trying to create microloans for women entrepreneurs in Africa, or I'm creating an after-school program for children with special needs. Whatever that is, it's like this, it might be your day job, it might not be your day job, but there's a very specific social purpose, and that's why the business is created. Or, as I'm actually encouraging, this is new, I'm saying there's businesses that can pivot to this model that are already existing. And I think leading by example with our kids, with young people, with everyone else in this way is a phenomenal way to start shifting the mindset in the world. So specifically, there is a lot of socialpreneurship in common discussion is is a little bit on the new side, being in just everyday conversation. So there's still some varieties of definitions, but the principal definition is, yes, that you are created, the business is created to help fix or solve a social problem. Now, I'll give you 2 examples. So one example would be a business that is just selling, let's say, really cool spatulas, right? Like you like to cook, right?
You like to cook. Who doesn't?
Yes. Okay. So you're selling a kitchen gadget, but the real reason you're selling the kitchen gadget is to make a profit. And you make it known throughout your marketing program that, 40% of all proceeds, all the income in this company go reinvested back in to help teach handicrafts, to help people who are, say, just getting out of prison find new jobs. Maybe you're not teaching those people how to balance a checkbook or have a new career, but you're supporting that movement. The opposite would be if you're actually, say, offering classes for very low amount of money to people who are, say, ex-cons. I have a friend who's works with ex-con women, and in fact, she was at the conference too. Tammy, yeah, and she's helping rehab ex-con women by giving them jobs in her bakeries, teaching them life skills. The women are making an income, learning how to manage their money, learning professional skills, building a resume, and the bakeries are all making a profit, which means that the entrepreneur Tammy gets to make a profit, and there's a huge amount of the profit, whatever's been decided in advance, that goes right back into the purpose. So this is a vision of what social entrepreneurship is. Now, add parenthetically, because I think it keeps it simple and helps it be clear. You could be a social entrepreneurship. You could be a social entrepreneur in anywhere in the world. No matter what your income bracket, it does not matter. You could be a socialpreneur that washes clothes in the river. It doesn't matter, because you can go around. You actually use the concept of giving back as part of your marketing strategy. Right. And you could go door to door and say, hey, I know someone else washes your clothes, but 30% of everything I make is going to help orphans in our county. Would you consider using me? And people are like, well, I mean, it's the same amount of money. Why wouldn't I want to help the orphans in our county? So pretty soon you've doubled your business, you're making more money, and you're also giving 40% of your profits to orphans, which was 40% of income that you didn't have before. That's a social entrepreneurship. And it leads by example, because instead of just a charity-based, I can help you, it's living by example and showing other people, maybe even those orphans, how they can run a business, how they can create a social entrepreneurship and learn to have an income and give back at the same time. So I
love this. I love this. And that's the concept I have for my super awesome life. So although I'm an entrepreneur, I mean, and I think there's probably lots of listeners out there, that people that are going to listen to this, because I know this is going to be a popular episode, because I think it's a very worthwhile, it's a good use of our time to talk about this. But I'm an entrepreneur. And so I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a former kindergarten teacher, and now I'm a writer and an author, but I still consider myself a mentor. And you never know when you're going to make a difference in someone's life. And that's what you're talking about. I don't have a psychology degree. I'm a sociologist, with a bit of a psychology background. But what I see is I don't need that PhD to do this. I've got a DPE. I've got a doctorate in personal experience. So do you. And a lot of other people out there do too. They've got the common sense and the wisdom to say, you know what? I know what it's like. I understand what it's like to go through hard times. I understand what it's like not to, have that support system, or, be torn away from my family or my friends because of a breakup or something, that family situation wasn't a healthy one. Or I know what it's like to lose my job or be laid off. I know what that's like to start over. And that's something I think that I'm very, very excited and enthusiastic when I hear you speak, because I think there's room for more of this in our society. So what do you think, Ross? He's always got great insights when we're talking, because I'm coming from a female perspective, but what are you thinking as Anne's talking about this?
Lots of things, and hearing Anne speak, your mind goes in so many directions. And I think, what I see, as someone, Anne, with a non-for-profit background, is how needed this is. I feel like a lot of people have the dream there, have the goal there, but they don't know how to execute. And I feel like being able to connect, your background and your experience to them, would be so beneficial. It's like, hey, how are we going to get this off the ground? I guess in terms of a question for you is, when you're talking with individuals who are looking to establish themselves and looking to establish, their businesses with the socialpreneur background or focus, are there any common themes that you encounter? And if so, what do you normally hear?
Well, that's a really good question. And I would say it's really interesting, because a majority, but not all, many of the people, I would say, like, if I had to guess, I would say 60-70% of what people choose to do, what the social initiative they want to create or expand, has something to do with their past.
Mhm.
So I'm coaching a woman right now who she's married to a pro football player, but she dealt with anorexia her whole childhood and teenage life, bulimia, eating disorders. And her goal is to teach young girls and teens about eating disorders, how to get help from eating disorders, alternate behaviors. So people get really passionate often about the thing that is most close to home, like something where they said, I had no one who could talk to me about this. I didn't hear any shows about it. I didn't have any books about it. I thought I was alone and stuck. There's another woman I'm working with right now who was sexually trafficked here in this country,
Mhm.
and young woman. And she's obviously trying to raise awareness that, you know, that human trafficking happens all over the United States, and this is not just some kind of foreign problem. So she's passionate, and she wants to create public awareness and also create reintegration solutions for victims of trafficking, and many other things, whether it's education. It's either that or something you're already talented at. So another one of my clients, he is a radio show host and been in and out of production over the course of his life, and recently decided to start a radio show. Well, not recently, anyway, on and off over the last several years, is on an AM radio show in Seattle.
Mhm.
And instead of just hosting radio in the traditional sense, he has a show called Positive Talk Radio. And it's literally about positive talk and how you can find hope, overcome hopelessness, depression, in general society, and raise the bar for what kind of things can we talk about, and bringing education and love to people, helping them know they're not alone, and changing what we hear in the media. So people who have a passion or a particular skill often gravitate towards starting an initiative that they relate to personally. Not all, but many.
Mhm. Absolutely. It makes so much sense, what defines you, what has defined you, how do you link that to your goals? Um, and the thing that I'm thinking is, okay, so when someone comes to you and they say, I have all this experience, this, how does that translate into what I want to do? What would your
Mhm.
response be?
Yeah, so it's really fun. So in my mastermind, I have such a wide variety of people. I have people who are already have filed and or officially have a nonprofit, but they want to create a social enterprise portion that helps make money to make it more sustainable within the system. And there's other people who know exactly what they want to do as a social entrepreneur, and there's people who aren't even sure yet. And
Mm,
so it's really fun to explore with them what they're passionate about, what really strikes a chord with them, and where is it that they want to create that greatest impact, and what are their life skills. In fact, like one of the early things we do is, what is your experience around this field? Because do you have any experience? What experiences do you have, and how can do you need a collaborative partner, or is this something that you feel like you can take off and do with the tools and the coaching that we give them? So it's really fun to see how they expand and choose. One thing that I teach very systematically, and I talk about changing the world, so I say this loosely, but in another sense, I say social entrepreneurs don't change the world. Because what world are we talking about? Oh, I have all the answers for someone who I have no contact with, and I'm going to fix their life. No, a real social entrepreneur is much more grassroots. If you want to fix a health condition in another continent, you better get on the ground in that continent, and you better talk to the people there, and you better invent it from the ground up. And you can help them create their own sustainable sources of income to help that cause. If what sometimes happens with people with the best intentions in America, they're like, oh, we're going to help solve some problem in a developing country. We don't know anything about it. They raise a whole bunch of money. The money may or may not ever get there because these countries can be very complicated, or they're not really giving exactly what a diabetic woman in Zimbabwe needs, because they've had a top-down design. So part of what makes social entrepreneurship more sustainable is getting on the ground. You don't have to live where your social entrepreneurship is functioning necessarily, but getting on the ground with people and understanding what is it they really need, and how can you help other people create sustainable change. And this is what changes it from a charity-based mentality to an action-based lifestyle.
Wow.
Yeah, this is incredible because, even myself, I mean, I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, but I don't have all the answers. And I find too, even if you've been an entrepreneur, a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly during COVID, there's two examples. There's people that want to start fresh and maybe they've been an employee or a subcontractor and they want to, delve into socialpreneurship and become a socialpreneur. But there's also, I think, entrepreneurs like me, or maybe like you too, that we've done a variety of things. Like our journey has taken us on that, circuitous route. And we've said, oh, okay, well, we'll stop over here and do this, and we'll stop over here and do this, and we'll stop over here and do this. But at the end of the day, I want to make a difference. I want to make, I do want to make the world a better place, but I understand that I can't do everything. And
Mhm.
but I think what you're saying to the audience is, you know what, you can make this a reality, but you really have to find a niche. You really have to be specific about what it is you want to accomplish so that you don't, it's like herding cats. You don't want to be herding
Mhm.
cats all the time, right? You want to be very focused. You want to be very purposeful and intentional and say, this is my business model.
Mhm.
How does it fit,
Mhm.
with, with what I also, the change that I want to be and the change that I want to
Mhm.
see. And it's also about using it's like me, I always say the past is just a chapter, not the whole book. You're using that experience from the past to pay it forward. You're saying, okay, this happened, this was not a nice experience or pleasant to go through, but you know what, I'm not going to sweep it under the rug. I'm just going to say it is what it is and take it for what it was. These are the lessons I learned, and this is how I believe I can bring it forward. Is that sort of, have I kind of got the
Yes, I
picture?
mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, the part about finding the right niche is really important, I think, because, and this is what makes social entrepreneurship a unique opportunity, is that to be successful from day one, it has to be run like a business. Which means you need to learn skills. If you don't have them, you need to find them, or you have to, through the Global Impact League, you find resources and people that can help you with those skills, or collaborators. And you find a niche that is specific, because as a social entrepreneur, it means that you sell a goods or services, products or services in a real marketplace for money. People pay for a product or service, and that's the fundamental. That is the foundation of what a social entrepreneurship means. So, deciding what that is, and deciding who you're going to help specifically. Again, is the service itself helping people, or are the proceeds from the service going directly into, like the woman washing clothes in the river? Are the proceeds going into something that's predetermined specifically? You have a business plan, you've decided exactly what percent of your net profits go to help support, the community. You have that decided on in advance. But it's just like any other business. And I think this is what makes it also a sustainable approach in a global conversation, because NGOs do amazing work. If you think of all of the like development and relief agencies for disasters and war, right? These are disrupted social patterns that are, hopefully for most of us, unusual. So there's a tremendous amount of good that can be done by combining government money with private money and across the globe to respond to emergency situations like this. So that's an illustration of, typically at least, what's not a traditional social entrepreneurship. But what social entrepreneurship does is it helps people in everyday life find a
Yes.
new way of giving back and making an income. So, most NGOs, maybe the people in leadership and directing and managing, they have salaries. The rest is volunteer based. The social entrepreneurship is, no, this is a business and I get to make money. And, I think there's always a question comes up, especially in other countries. I think Americans Americans, Canadians, Western Hemisphere, we kind of jump into that. Oh yeah, the productive North America, right? Social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Oh, because we love
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and we're like, we get it right away. Other countries, I've often found people, not all, of course, but people are a little more reticent because they're like, wait, you're going to do a social service and make money on it? That sounds immoral. Like they actually feel icky when you say that. You're like, well, I guess, you do realize right, that most of leadership in nonprofits make a salary. Some of them make outrageous amounts of money, actually. And we're not doing this to have private yachts and our personal helicopters. That's not the
No,
objective of social
no.
entrepreneurship. That's the objective of a large thinking, big thinking entrepreneur that is doing it strictly for money. A
Yeah.
social entrepreneur says, I want to be able to send my kids to good schools. I want to be able to travel and share my message and have a decent quality of life. But I'm not looking for a lavish lifestyle, because anything over and above the bare essentials of, a decent life, that goes back into what I believe in. That goes back into
Right.
creating change on the ground. And that's what makes it different. So I think helping people see what that really looks like motivates them, because in the past, they've often thought, well, I would love to do it maybe when I retire, maybe when I have more money. I don't have
Yeah.
time right now. And it's like, actually, you kind of do, because it can
Yeah.
be small. It can start as a Zoom class, you guys. You don't even have to have money at the day
Yeah.
one to start
Exactly.
an enterprise.
Exactly. I love it, because it's every day. It's simple every day. And I talk about this in my writing about living an abundant life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helping to teach people that an abundant life is not necessarily one with a lot of money in it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
material possessions in your life. It's about that feeling. First of all, it's that feeling of inner, hey, balance and calm, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
on the right path. And living joyfully is really getting up every day with passion and saying, wow, I can't wait to start my day. I can't wait to write. I can't wait to, make that go to the office and work and mentor people, or make my product that I know people are going to use, and I know a portion of it is going to support these
Mm-hmm.
people. And I'll tell you a little story, because I had a very moving experience. I was in New Orleans. I don't know if you've heard of Covey Club. I was a guest on Leslie Jane Seymour's podcast, and I think she may want to have you as a guest. I'm going to make an introduction after this. She's a former editor at Mary Claire,
Mm-hmm.
Vogue, and all kinds of stuff. Much more worldly than me, and loved my story, loved what I had to say, invited me down to New Orleans. And it was interesting. Things happen for a reason. So just like you knew that you were doing these things in your life, and that all the past, you were not the sum total. You didn't put the label on yourself, but you said, look, at this happened for a reason. So anyway, I was supposed to speak at the conference. I was supposed to speak at the hotel or a restaurant. Never happened. It kept getting pushed back, pushed back, pushed back. And sometimes we get that in life, right? Especially when we want to start fresh, or we want to start a business, or we want to help others. It's like, oh my gosh, I know I can make a difference, but I'm not sure where the best fit is. But we get signs, we get affirmations. So finally, my moment came in a restaurant called Nona's in the New Orleans Latin Quarter, right? And this very nice gentleman, and I was speaking in a restaurant, and he sat down, the owner, and he's the cook there, the chef there. He came over and listened to me, and I almost want to cry. At the end, he gave me a big hug, and he said, I loved your story. He said, and he stood up and he started to tell his, and he said, I was in prison for 20 years. He said, I got accused of something I didn't do. And he said, I love food, and my passion was food. And I told myself every day, and he was of color. He was not Caucasian. He was an African American. And he said, every day I got up and I said to myself, this is going to get better. This is going to change. When I have the opportunity, I am going to make a difference, and I'm going to change my life. I love food. People love me and my food. That is going to be what I'm going to do. That man now moved to a neighborhood, and all of a sudden, the restaurant that he went to, the lady said, this is a lot for me to manage. I wonder if you might like a job here.
Oh, yeah.
She, in turn, was a socialpreneur herself. She, in turn, helped him get the financing so that he could take over the restaurant. She took back part of the mortgage, helped him live his dream, but also now he gives back to the neighborhood, and he hosts meals for people that are homeless.
Amazing.
Socialpreneurship in action,
Yes.
right?
Very good. What a great
What a
story.
story. What a story. You've talked about some examples. I've witnessed that in my own life. That is a thing. Here's a man, and he was older than me. He's in his 60s, almost 70s. And that's what he did.
Wow.
And and we each gave each other a big hug and said, oh my gosh, you know what? It just affirms that this is what we're supposed to be doing, and this is good stuff, and that you can
Mm-hmm.
make a difference, not only in your own life, but in other
Mm-hmm.
people. So thank you. Thank you for giving people hope. How do they find you? How do we find you? Where are you? I know you got this great new podcast.
Yes.
We want to listen. We want more
Yay.
information. We want to be inspired by you, because you are an extraordinary human being who is making an incredible difference. You're super awesome.
Hmm.
So how do we find you? How do we
Sure.
get involved? If I'm an entrepreneur, or if I don't know where to start, or I want more
Mm-hmm.
information about this, about coaching and mentoring
Mm-hmm.
and your podcast, how do we find you?
Absolutely. So you can go to annescottlin.com. If it's ANNESCOTTLIN, annescottlin.com. If that spelling isn't your favorite thing, you can go to globalimpactleague.com. globalimpactleague.com. Those words, you all know how they're spelled, because my name can sometimes be confusing, and it will actually send you to the same destination, and you can learn more about the Global Impact League and about socialpreneurship. I have a wonderful, incredible mastermind. The people alone that I get to hang out with in there and learn from and motivate and encourage and mentor are just mind blowing. The changes they're making in the world, from people who are well advanced in their projects to people who are literally like, they're not sure what they're going to do yet and they're just getting started, is my Socialpreneur Mastermind. That's available. You can check out more about that, or email me any questions you have right there from the website. My email's listed on the website. And and starting June 7, the new podcast, Global Socialpreneurs, and that you can find on my website. And it's a live show that airs on USA Global Network TV. So you can Google USA Global Network TV and radio and my name, and it should pop up, or just Global Socialpreneurs. We're always looking for people with experience in socialpreneurship, who might like to come and be on that podcast as well, so that they can share how they've made it work successfully. So we're trying to bring in experts who can share and lead by example as well. So if any of
Awesome.
those things appeal to you or anybody you know, let them know. We would love to see how we could support them.
Okay, sign me up, Ross. What do you think? Sign me up. I'm in.
I'm interested in. I'm so excited about what you're doing. I think your goal, I
Thank
love how
you.
ambitious you are, working towards the 10,000 programs. I think you're going to have enormous impact, and I'm excited to learn more. I definitely want to, research more into the Global Impact League,
Mhm.
and hear the success
Amazing.
stories, because I believe, I'm inspired just listening, but reading through, I know it would, be great to see.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One last thing we want to run by you. Okay. These episodes, for our listeners, these episodes are part of our super awesome summer podcast series. So your episode's going to come out in June or July and be shared. And I always say, well, while you're on the road trip, or you're at the beach, or you're cooking, making that strawberry rhubarb pie, or
Mm.
canning, or, outside in the backyard, just enjoying a staycation. Fun things to think about, things that stimulate your creativity and light you up, right? Light you up and say, wow, that inspires me. I can't wait to find out more about that. So, travel stories. Have you got any? Were you ever inspired during a travel? I know I was. I did a trip with my boys, and that's where I found the inspiration for my super awesome life. Did any of your inspiration ever come from the experience of travel
Oh,
and
yes.
checking out, like a one big long savasana, like like an aha moment where it went, oh my God,
Yes.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes. Well, quickly, so coming from my very secluded background, where I didn't have much exposure to normal society, if you will, but I got very fortunate, even though it was a religious trip at the time. Again, nothing against religion, just that's how I'm trying to explain the way where I came from. As like a sophomore in high school, I was able to go to Europe on an educational tour, and we did 7 countries in 3 weeks. And I just thought I had died and gone to heaven. It was my first introduction to seeing completely different cultures and being immersed in other languages. And from that day forward, every year for the rest of my life, I found ways to travel around the world, whether I had to earn the money, whether I had to direct the trip. Right out of college, I started my own tour company so that I could basically didn't make a big profit, but I could get my way paid to be a tour guide. And so these were the things that really motivated me. And as I got to other countries that, were more developing nations, it had such a huge impact on me, how we really are all the same as human beings. There's a lot of good work being done right now in the world to help us learn to understand and appreciate people that are different from us. And yet at the same time, it's so important to have the conversation about what it is about each one of us as human beings that is so similar, and then what we have in common, what we have the same. And that was probably where the concept of both working originally with the nonprofits and now with social entrepreneurship really motivated me to reach out and create a new global conversation from people all over the world in different cultures to band together and make the world a better place and lay some of our differences aside. And for those who have, I call them like-hearted people with really pure intentions, how can we make the world a better place? But travel was huge in that. And I support absolutely any young person who can possibly find a way to travel and learn and from other cultures. It's something that will change your life forever and change your point of view, and is incredible opportunity to widen your perspective and become more of a global citizen.
That's right. That's right. And travel is a wonderful way of opening your mind to the possibilities. I always say I'm tuned into the frequency of possibilities and passion and positivity. And thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our podcast. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and also for giving back and giving your time. And I know it's not the last conversation we're going to have. I'm supercharged thinking about all the possibilities. The idea train is running in my mind. So I'm looking forward to catching up with you after this.
Absolutely.
And making ideas happen. So thanks so much. And all the best to you with your new podcast and all of your new adventures and all of your new initiatives, and stay super awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate you both.